up, nerds? You're watching The Nerdy Narrative. My name is Leslie, and welcome to my February monthly wrap-up. My first completed read for the month of February was The Wheel of Time, Book 12, The Gathering Storm by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Since this is the 12th book in a series and it's almost to the end of the series, I do not want to get into any detail about this one for those of you who may be reading the series or want to read the series. What I will say is, book 12 in, this was a 5-star read for me, or it remained a 5-star read for me. It's also one of my favorite books in the entire Wheel of Time series. There was just so much payoff that I was rewarded with in this book that I just absolutely loved it. The next book that I picked up and finished in February was Servants of the Dark Gods by Joseph Sale. This is a collection of short stories and novellas of characters from the Book of Thrice Dead series. So if you have read the series or you're reading the series and you have met some characters that have intrigued you, perhaps you would like to know more about where they got their start, then this is the collection for you. When I was reading this collection in March and discussing it in videos on the channel, there was not a set release date, and I have neglected to check and see if that information has been updated. I want to say that it has, so if it has, I will have it linked in the description box down below, which is a great time to mention that all of the books and their non-spoiler written reviews, if I have them ready, are going to be down in the description box below for you to check out. In addition to those reviews, their book descriptions will also be linked so you can read more about any of the books that I talk about that catch your interest. My next read, well, I couldn't let February go by, the month of love and Valentine's Day. We couldn't let that go by without reading a romance, now could we? Y'all know I'm lying to y'all. I just wanted to have the excuse to read Emily Henry's Beach Read. She is one of those authors that I read one book by, and I am obsessed with reading everything else that she has ever written or will write. Yes, I already have the new one on pre-order. It was, of course, a 5-star read for me, and not only that, it is my new top favorite of everything that I've read by Emily Henry. Beach Read is a contemporary romance that features a romance writer who no longer believes in love, and our other main character is a literary writer who finds himself stuck in a rut. The two authors end up challenging each other to a competition to write a book in the other one's genre, and it is just too funny. Absolutely loved it. And once I make my way through all of Emily Henry's books one time, I'm gonna go back and reread this one. For my next read, I read The Ark for a Haunting in the Arctic by C.J. Cook. This was a new to me author. What drew me in was the cover and the title. I love horror that is set in a cold setting. You can't get much colder than Finland, am I right? Throw in a deserted shipwreck that is sure to be haunted. It's gonna have secrets, things that are gonna terrify me. I was in for this one. I did give this one 4 stars. I did a dedicated non-spoiler review. I will link that for you so you can check that out. I loved the atmosphere and the writing style of this author. I personally found both of these aspects to just be done in the most exquisite way and strong enough that I want to read more by this author based on the writing style alone. The next book in February was another new to me author. I read The Puzzle Master by Danielle Trussoni. The plot was so unique and amazing. I flew through this. I was obsessed with this book. Ancient religious relics, haunted objects, mystery, thriller, puzzles, suspense, alchemy, science fiction. I could go on. I loved this book. Our main character, Mike Brink, has what is called acquired savant syndrome. He suffered a brain injury in high school that left him with this condition that gave him this sort of mental superpower to solve puzzles that no one else can. Because of this and his notoriety for creating puzzles and being known as the Puzzle Master, he receives a call from a doctor from a women's prison who ask him to come and see this puzzle that a patient has drawn. And Mike Brink, y'all, once he sees a puzzle, he's in. He has to solve it. And oh my goodness, it's a story that has all of the right things that make it addicting and draws you in and doesn't let you go until you get to the end. And my mind was blown. I actually thought I wasn't gonna like the ending, but oh man, a couple of pages later, the author added a little something to it and I was like, that was great. Excellent choice, wouldn't change a thing. I am also rereading the Dresden Files series in hopes that we're going to get a new novel by the end of 2024. But in February, I reread Changes. It has always been my favorite book of the series. It's still my favorite book of the series. My husband also read this one. He actually finished it a couple of nights ago. He had a little bit left when we were gonna go walk the dog. He was like, you care if I listen to it on my headphones so I can finish the last 3 minutes? I was like, go ahead, because I knew what was gonna happen and I wanted to be there for it. And I was not disappointed. When he got to the end, he's like, fuck me. Normally he takes a couple of weeks off between books so he'll listen to music, kind of reset. He's like, well, I guess I'm not gonna be listening to any music. I'm gonna have to go right into the next book. Ugh, I couldn't have been more happy to hear that. And then we got to talk about all of the things that happened in the 12th book, and I loved hearing what he thinks is going to happen in the next one. It was all wrong. I read the horror anthology Out There Screaming, which was edited by Jordan Peele. I did finally sit down and rate this one a 3-star rating. There were 5 or 6 stories that were top tier, and there were some that were good, and there was one I DNF'd, and 2 or 3 that I just was shaking my head at, didn't get. I would not call this a horror anthology. This was speculative fiction with a few horror stories included. I feel that it is being marketed incorrectly. That means it's getting marketed to the wrong set of readers, and I think it's going to result in a lot of very low scores for this one. I'm the type of reader that reads everything anyway, so I wasn't as disappointed with it as a lot of people were. Also in February, I read Vevan Song by Jonathan Neves Myers. It's the first book in the Vevan Song Quartet. It's a science fiction fantasy blend dystopia that has a really cool concept of how humanity survives an invasion by an alien race that they call lightbirds. How this race of beings got their name, lightbirds, is because one, they have wings, they fly, and they have these swords made of light or energy that they're able to produce and just slaughter indiscriminately. Humanity is forced to flee, and where they flee to is 1 mile underwater in the ocean. They are living in steel cocoons. While a lot of you are thinking, that sounds like a really cool sci-fi fantasy, I was thinking this is gonna be horror because I do not do deep water, y'all, especially if I can't see to the bottom of it. My favorite elements of Vevan Song were the atmosphere and the plot. I was fascinated learning about the light birds, where they came from, what their purpose was, where they staying, what their culture was, their societal rankings, all of that. I was all in. I really didn't care about anything else but the light birds. My next completed read for February was a complete surprise. It wasn't on the TBR. My friend Evie noticed that there was a prequel novella for one of my favorite Irish historical fiction series available on NetGalley to request. And that was for Dreams of Fire, the prequel novella to Shauna Lawless's Irish mythology folklore series Gale Song. I knew going in I was gonna love it. I knew going in it was going to be a 5-star read. Everything that I've read by this author has just been wonderful. Shauna Lawless was very clever in choosing the narrative voice. She gave us a different character, one that answered so many questions for current readers, and it in turn sets up mysteries to entice new readers. It was just so good. So good. Highly recommend the entire series. Just being honest here. I cannot wait for the 3rd book in the series. Let's see. What else did I read during the month of February? Spy Family. Spy Family. I read the first 10 issues of that manga by Tatsuya Endo. At time of filming, there are 10 issues that have been published in English. If you read them and you love them like I did and you want more, there are more chapters available that you can get on the Shonen Jump app, because yes, that's exactly what I did. I had so much fun with this series that I downloaded the Shonen Jump app, got the subscription, and I've been catching up on the other chapters that are out. Found family trope, it's got it. cuteness overload, it's got it. Humor in spades. Highly recommend this series. It's so fun. And the last thing on the list here for February was a DNF. I did try Chasing the Dragon by Mark Taus. I read the first 23% of the arc for this one. It's a dark justice, vigilante, superhero type of story. There were a lot of phrases that were repeated over and over and over. I don't like that kind of repetition. I don't like excessive cursing if it's not adding to the story. If it just feels like it's there to be there, I don't like it, even though I do it in my day-to-day life. In the percentage that I read, every scene involved shit, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was like, I am not the reader for this book, and called it quits. My favorite book for the month of February is Emily Henry's Beach Read. I know. Nobody is surprised by that. Y'all knew as soon as I mentioned it at the beginning of the video that this was going to be my favorite book of the month. I also was lucky enough to have a favorite audiobook narrator this month. It is the narrator for Danielle Trussoni's The Puzzle Master, Eduardo Bellerini. The narration for this one was perfection. Bellerini's voice, his tone, captured the elegance of Danielle Trussoni's writing style. I hope that he will be narrating the puzzle box that's coming out in October, because I will be getting that one. Even if I get the arc from NetGalley that I can read, I will be getting my hands on the audiobook as well. That's how much I enjoyed him as an audiobook narrator. Y'all, that is it for the February monthly wrap-up. That is everything that I read and enjoyed over the month. Is March going to be able to keep the excellence of reading going for 2024? We'll have to wait and find out. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.